Okay, the first comma rule that we're going to study is compound sentences. And basically the rule states that a comma and a conjunction are used to join independent clauses. And an independent clause is just another way of saying a complete sentence. So when we're talking about conjunctions being used to join those independent clauses, we're talking about coordinating conjunctions, or fanboys. As you recall, fanboys mean for and, nor, but, or, yet, and so. So as we're talking about joining two clauses in a compound sentence, we want to use a fanboy. The comma rule states that a comma is only used when two independent clauses are joined. And if an independent clause and a dependent clause are joined with a conjunction, a comma is not necessary. So let's look at a couple examples. Notice these two sentences. Abby hates eating celery, but she loves chocolate cake, versus Abby hates eating celery, but loves chocolate cake. Notice in our first example, but she loves chocolate cake is an independent clause. So because we have a compound sentence that balances two independent clauses, or two complete sentences, we need to include that comma to balance those complete thoughts. However, in the second sentence, notice our second clause, loves chocolate cake, is actually a dependent clause. It could not stand on its own. It doesn't have the subject that we had up here. So notice we actually omit the comma because we don't need a comma to join an independent and dependent clause. Here's a similar example. Martians landed on Earth and they abducted my little brother. In this case, they abducted my little brother is an independent clause. We have that subject, they, repeated, making it a complete thought. So in this case, we do need the comma to balance those two complete thoughts. However, in the second example, Martians landed on Earth and abducted my little brother. Abducted my little brother is a dependent clause because it couldn't stand on its own. It doesn't have that subject, and therefore we do not need to include the comma to balance them. So essentially, you're simply looking at your second clause and asking yourself, is this independent or dependent? Could it stand on its own or not? And if it could stand on its own, then you include the comma. One caveat to this is that you don't want to confuse conjunctions with conjunctive adverbs, which cannot be used to join two independent clauses. So just to complicate things a bit for you, there are these groups of words. They're considered adverbs, not conjunctions, even though they serve a very similar purpose. They include things like however, therefore, furthermore, consequently, subsequently, moreover, also, and nonetheless. Even though these might be used to join two clauses, they're actually not conjunctions, and you couldn't simply join those two clauses with a comma. So take a look at an example. It's incorrect to say, I drink water every day, comma, however, I could probably drink more. Because however is an adverb, not a conjunction, you cannot simply use a comma to join those two independent clauses. Instead, you'd use a semicolon to join them. We'll look at that a bit more when we get to semicolons, but just something for you to be on the lookout for. You can only use a comma to join independent clauses with a conjunction, not a conjunctive adverb. All right, go ahead and pause the video, complete the practice exercise. When you're done, you can continue playing the video to check your answers. All right, let's see how you did. The first sentence reads, Timmy is the smallest kid in class, but he is the smartest. Hopefully you recognize that he is the smartest is an independent clause, and therefore we'd need to add the comma to balance out the two complete thoughts. The second sentence reads, the quarterback is 6'1" and weighs 217 pounds. Weighs 217 pounds is a dependent clause, and therefore we do not need a comma to join them. I am hungry, yet I don't want to eat. I don't want to eat is an independent clause. It could stand on its own, so I'm going to add the comma to join those two. Number 4, it will be a great success, or it will be a terrible disaster. It will be a terrible disaster. Again, we have an independent clause. It could be its own sentence, so I'm going to add the comma in between them. Number 5, I am disgusted yet can't look away. Can't look away does not have a subject. It's not a complete sentence, so I'm going to omit the comma, leave it out. Number 6, learning about commas is really fun and makes me happy. I'm sure you feel the same way. Makes me happy is a dependent clause. It cannot stand on its own, so again, I'm going to leave out the comma. So dependent clause, dependent clause. Some believe we should invest in space travel, but others think it is a wasted endeavor. In this case, it's an independent clause. Notice now that the subject actually switched from some to others, but nonetheless, it's still its own sentence. Others think it is a wasted endeavor. It could stand on its own, so I'm going to go ahead and add the comma in. And number 8, children are inundated with technology. However, they may not always know how to handle it. I threw that one in there. Hopefully I didn't trick you. However, remember, it's not a conjunction. It's an adverb, so we can't actually just use a comma, even though it's two independent clauses. Technically, we should use a semicolon. That one was a little bit tricky and actually not on our rule list yet, but I just wanted you to be on the lookout for cases when we're using an adverb as opposed to a conjunction. So if you put a comma in there, just remember you can't use commas to join two clauses with a adverb. All right, so that is the end of our slideshow. Hopefully you feel pretty good about this rule and you can go on to do your practice.